So far, I've driven the M2 CS and the BMW M5. CS was both on road and track, so that was awesome. Great car. Check out our reviews for that. Now I am in the BMW M440i. Now this is a really interesting car. It's been highly controversial because of its looks. It's got a funky grille, which I will say it does look better in person. I still don't like it, but it does look better in person. I'm just gonna get my seat adjusted here, but I'm excited to drive this because the M340i is a great car. It's a car that is extraordinarily capable on track, and honestly, it almost feels like it really feels like a M3 Lite on track. It's so good. You get on the road, and because it's so capable and so comfortable. It's kind of almost boring. Not that it's boring, but that it can kind of feel like the car is bored. Like it takes so much to push it, to really push it to its limits, which is where a car is most fun at or close to its limits. And because it's so capable that you really never reach its limits on the road unless you're doing something really stupid. So now we're in the M440i, and I'm curious because I've been told that this is better, that this is a little bit more engaging than the M340i, but I've also heard that it's less engaging because it's more of a GT car than a sports coupe. So I'm really curious to see what it's all about. And I love this engine. I love this chassis. I love basically everything about the M340i. So this is basically the same thing, just in a coupe. Let's see what it's like. All right, so put it in D. We're gonna put everything into. Let's configure here. I like to configure my individual, so I want to put damping. We'll do damping in sport, steering in comfort because it's better. Engine sport, transmission sport, yada yada yada. All right, so that's my setup, and we're gonna stick with that. So obviously, coming out of the M2 CS, this is a very, very different car. It's much softer, much more comfortable. I almost feel like I'm sitting in a truck because the M2 CS is so low and you can sit quite low, whereas this, you can't adjust your seat that low, and it's a bigger car. I feel like I'm sitting way higher, so it's a little disorienting. I got to kind of get used to it real quick. Just the whole difference of the two cars. Steering is very good. It's very sharp. It's very accurate. You place the nose exactly where you want. There's no feel whatsoever, and that's not going to change comfort, sport plus. That doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the weight in those modes. And honestly, I just feel like it feels artificial, and it's not worth changing. I think comfort is the best because it just feels the most natural and it weights up the most naturally through corners. Despite being just a regular 8-speed auto versus the dual clutch I was just using in the M2, this is very good. This 8-speed is it's really snappy and really smooth. And even when you're on it and you upshift, you get a little bit of a shove in the back. It's not super, it's not super slushy. You get a little bit of a kick, which is nice. You want that crispness, that you want it to feel like a proper sports car. Now, I'm sure this is very good on track. I'm sure it's very capable on track, and that it can feel, M4-like on track. But on the road so far, this is a GT car. This is comfy. It's smooth. Let me try changing the steering to sport as well rather than comfort. That's usually not how I do it in BMWs, but let's try that. Let's just see if it makes it any better. Let's just try everything in sport mode. I mean, not really. It doesn't load up enough. The weight doesn't change enough as you turn, so it doesn't give you a good sense of what the front end is doing. It's very accurate, like I'm going exactly where I'm pointing it, but through my hands, I can't really tell exactly what the front end is doing. And in the M2 is a perfect example. It's numb. You don't feel the texture of the road through the M2 steering, but what you do feel is the weight change. So the weight builds up nicely off center, and that gives your hands to your brain, just an idea of what the front end is doing and how much grip it has and stuff like that. While it's not as accurate as something like an E46 back in the day, it's still enough. It's enough to give you a good idea of what the front end is doing, and that is a big part of why the M2, and especially the M2 CS, is so beloved. It's so highly regarded as BMW's best driving car, And that steering has a lot to do with it. This doesn't do that at all. Making huge steering inputs right now. Here comes a decent sized one. But like, it changes a little bit, but it's just not enough, and it feels very inert. Capability-wise, this thing is incredible. I mean, the chassis is so good. It does feel really balanced. You get a good sense of it kind of swinging around your hips a little bit. Like it feels like your hips are the rotation point. Like that's where it rotates around. It rotates around you, which feels really nice. It's an incredibly capable machine. There's no question about it. It's a great, great, great driving car. But I do think, just from this quick drive on the road, that this is more of a GT, a fast GT, than a sports car. Which is odd because it's kind of small, you know. Cars are getting bigger and bigger, but even in person, even this new 4 Series in person looks kind of small. But it feels like a GT. It feels like it has nice long legs. Like you can just kind of drive this for 500 miles and at 100 miles per hour and be perfectly comfortable and happy. Even in sport mode, the suspension is supple. It's comfortable. The cabin is quiet. It's really nice in here, actually. The materials are great. The design is nice. I mean, it's like a 3 Series, but this center console's a little bit different. But other than that, it's mostly the same. But it's nice. The materials are really, really lovely. These seats are really lovely. It's a great car to drive. I just don't think that this is sportier than the M440i. If anything, I think it's less sporty. I think it's more comfortable. But it's been a while since I've driven an M440i, so I'm not going to say that it's not definitively that it's better or worse than a M340i. Although I'm getting a similar vibe from it, where it's very good, but it doesn't give me the fizz. It doesn't excite me in any way. Like, I just took an M2 CS out on this road, and I know that's a very, very different car, and it's not necessarily a fair comparison, but it was thrilling, and I was excited, and it was really getting my heart racing, and in the best of ways. It's an incredible machine. This, though, it's impressing me from an intellectual standpoint. Like, my brain likes this car because of how capable it is and how sure-footed it is, and I love this engine. It's a brilliant engine, but nothing about it gives me the fizz. I can put this thing back in BMW's lineup. Like, I can drive it back there and just stuff it back with the rest of the cars and not have any desire to come take it back out again. It's just like I want to go take the M2 CS back on this road. It's a fantastic road, and I want to do that again. I don't think I'm going to want to do that again in this car. It's very impressive, and it's probably an incredible daily driver. But this isn't a sportier version of the 3 Series. That's for sure. Actually, this isn't sportier than the M340i. Now, I said this on a recent podcast, and I'm going to say it again, and I have the same feelings as I did then. It's the same feelings now as I did then, and it's that this is a GT car, and I'm okay with that. When I said this isn't sportier than the 3 Series, I'm not knocking it. It's just different. It's just more GT car-like. This is an affordable GT car. It's a mini 8 Series. And to be honest, I think that's a cool thing. I think that if you want a sportier 3 Series, you get a 2 Series. I think that's what it should be. You get the 2 Series if you want the sportier 3 Series coupe, if you want the sports car, if you want to go back to the days of like cars like the E46 3 Series coupe, you want a similar package, that you get a 2 Series coupe. If you want something that's a little more comfortable, something you can take long distances if you go on a lot of road trips, I think the 4 Series is a fantastic car. This is a great car for that. And it is capable. You get it on a twisty road, and it's good. It's just not great. It is comfy, though. This engine is fantastic. I absolutely love it. BMW's B58 is one of the best 6-cylinder engines on the market, period. I actually even think this is better than the engine in the M2 CS, the S55. I think this is better. It's less powerful. I think this is better. It's sensational. It's just so good. Oh my God, I love it. Power band is great. From just probably 1500 RPM all the way to redline. Beautifully linear power band, tons of torque, makes a great noise. The all-wheel drive system is really good too. These are disgusting roads. They're really wet. There's some wet leaves on the road. It's a little slippery, and I feel completely sure-footed. But I was just pushing it through some corners, and it doesn't slide on you, but it also doesn't feel it doesn't understeer. It doesn't feel typically all-wheel drive. It still feels rear-driven. It just feels like rear-wheel drive with a ton of grip is what it feels like. So kudos to whoever calibrated this all-wheel drive system. It's really, really, really good. Transmission's really good. Really like it a lot. I do wish it had a manual. I just drove a manual M2 CS on this road, and it makes a world of a difference. Just having a manual, just being able to roll through your own gears, adds such an excitement factor, such an enjoyment factor, that it takes a relatively ordinary feeling car and makes it special. So the fact that this is really comfy and calm and easy to drive quickly, kind of remove some of the excitement from it. But if you were to put a manual in it, that would add some excitement back. It would forgive the fact that this is a bit too soft to be a proper sports car. What's funny is that I've driven the 8 Series a lot, and that's BMW's GT car. The 8 Series is not a sports car. I don't care what anyone from BMW or BMW M says. The 8 Series is not a sports car. It is a GT car. Even the M8 is less enjoyable to drive than this. It's just too comfy and too big and too soft. It's a big, floaty GT car. I think I'd rather have this. If I was looking for a GT car, something that I want to take my wife in and go on a trip somewhere, something that I can drive every day, but at the same time, if I want to go on a road trip with my wife, I can, I would buy this. This is a great car. I think this is even better at being a GT than the 8 Series is. I think it's a really, really, really sensational thing. As a everyday sort of sporty GT, I think it's a great package. I still don't like the way it looks. Well, I don't like the way its grille looks. I actually really like the way everything else looks. It actually is a really good looking car all the way around, except for that grille. So it's a relatively stylish car. It's comfy, it's fast, it's capable. I mean, it's actually an interesting proposition. It kind of upsets the GT car market. I mean, why would you buy an 8 Series if I think this is better. It's just as comfortable. It's just as comfortable as an 8 Series. And the design is almost identical on the inside. The materials aren't as nice, but from a design standpoint, it's barely different. I honestly don't think that your life is perceivably better in an 8 Series than it is in this. It's kind of interesting. I really, really think that even if it was to take a 500-mile journey, I would prefer this car than the 8 Series. I'm in sport mode, and it's just as comfortable as an 8 Series is in comfort mode. Why buy an 8 Series? This is really good. And if you want a sporty car, I'm not knocking it that it's not as sporty as a 3 Series. If you want a sports car, you get the 2 Series. If you want a GT car, you get the 4 Series. I kind of like how clear-cut it is, actually. Oh, God, it's so fast. Wow. Wow, that's fast.